I'm Katie Cowan, and this is the Creative Boom Podcast. Welcome back. Here we are for another season of fun and candid conversations with new and established artists and designers from all over the world. We're going to be bringing you insider career tips, honest business advice, and incredible stories, with every episode offering warmth, wisdom, and inspiration to help you in your creative profession. For episode 73, my guest is Constance Fleuriot, a writer, games developer and producer based in Bristol, who runs her own game design company, Pretty Digital. She also runs Girl Games to support women and girls of all ages to make their own games. A big part of her practice is helping people to develop ideas and research plans, and she encourages people of all ages to be creative producers rather than consumers. Her work history includes creative technologies research for HP, Intel, Nesta Future Lab, PM Studio and Watershed, and various community-based and educational organisations. She's also part of the University of West of England team, delivering the Master of Science in Data Science. Here we talk about women and girls in gaming and why there still aren't enough of us, how we can inspire more to join the industry. We talk of diversity in gaming overall and whether any progress has been made in recent years. We consider gender roles and identity and why it's important to create gender-neutral video game characters. There's also a delve into the creative process of game design and why you don't really need to know how to use a computer to get started. Stay with us. Do you ever wish you could just turn your iPad into a drawing tablet by mirroring your favourite Mac or PC desktop apps? Astropad Studio is an app that does just that. It's a clever solution for professional artists, designed to give the flexibility of an Apple Pencil combined with the full desktop power of software like Photoshop and Illustrator. Engineered for the most demanding creative work, Astropad Studio guarantees low latency performance over Wi-Fi or USB cable, so you can stay productive and creative on the go. And it's jam-packed with features to customise your workflow. We're talking programmable gestures, custom pressure curves and pressure smoothing, and unlimited shortcuts. The sky's the limit. Astropad Studio is trusted by leading design agencies and animation studios worldwide, and millions of artists rely on it whether they use a Mac or PC. If you're ready to take your creative workflow to the next level, you can start your 30-day free trial of Astropad Studio today. Plus save 10% on your first year when you enter the promo code BOOM at checkout. That applies to whether you opt for a monthly or an annual subscription. Visit astropad.com to get started. Well, if anybody's been listening to the podcast over the last couple of years, Constance, they will know that I'm a little bit game obsessed. I'll bring it up with any of my guests at any opportunity. And now here I have a game designer sat before me. It's like all my dreams have come true at once. Welcome along. Welcome on board.
Thank you. It's very nice to be here.
Now, you were just telling me that actually you haven't played a lot of games.
No. There are some games I've played obsessively, but they've tended to be the small games. I think because I have had children for as long as I can remember, and it can sort of get in the way of you playing games. So when my second child was a small baby, I used to play Dungeons and Dragons. This is back in the very early 1980s, and realised that we played it, 3 nights in a row with friends. And I realised that the nappies were beginning to ferment in the kitchen. I didn't really have time to be a dungeon master and run a house. So I sort of stopped. Yeah, but I am old enough to remember when Pong first appeared, the very basic of computer games. I remember sort of seeing that in a cafe and also on a friend's TV and just, Pong, which was exciting in its own way. So I've always had a thing about computers and the things you can do with them. Yeah. I've just never had time to get really immersed in any of the big games. So I'm more of a deleting solitaire off any PC I own. When I was doing my PhD, I had to delete, solitaire and also the one where you explode bombs, which name escapes me for now.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Was it?
I can see it in my head.
I can see it in my head.
It used to come free with everything. That's like, no, I would sort of have it for a while and then realise I was up till 2:00 in the morning playing games. So I think I might have an addictive personality. So
yes,
another
I think
reason
I have.
for not getting into it.
It can be so addictive. I mean, when we think about the amount of hours in our household here, how many hours we spend, my husband on FIFA, I'm on Red Dead Online. And sometimes I'll spend just an hour hunting animals and building my business on there, which is ridiculous, but I absolutely love it. I mean, some people like sitting in front of, Netflix. That's absolutely fine. I don't judge them for it. I prefer the engagement that you get from being immersed in this kind of, virtual world, I guess. And it's come such a long way since the early 80s. I mean, you and I share a small age difference. I can remember my dad getting a ZX Spectrum when I was probably about 6 or 7. So I think that was like 1985. Mm-hmm. And then, all the games that came in thereafter, and my dad upgrading to an Atari ST, and it just kept getting better and better. And it was such an exciting time to be a kid because you just had things like Bubble Bobble and Whizball by Ocean, which was designed by, I think, Peter Johnson, Prince of Persia. And oh my God, I was looking through all these games, and there was a game called Black Lamp by Firebird where you played a jester and went through all these amazing rooms, and all these kind of different monsters would try and attack you, and you had to sort of, I could go on. It was just incredible. But not once did I ever sort of look at a lot of these games and think, gosh, there's nobody in these that look like me. And I think it only got worse because I suppose back in the 80s, it was very innocent. Mm-hmm. A lot of the games were things like, I don't know, Llamatron was another one. That was amazing. That was literally llamas that could shoot lasers and go through all these different levels. I think they could fly as well. And you had Rainbow Islands and Gauntlet. So it felt quite that I was included as a girl, because Gauntlet, you could play the Valkyrie. And even though I always played the wizard.
There's something in that, I'm sure, as well.
Yeah. So it felt quite gender neutral back in those days, because all the characters were quite cute and fluffy, or they were animals, or they were little kind of made up characters that you couldn't really assign a gender to. And then the games got better and better, and we started to see the PlayStation and all the rest of it come in, the Xbox, and we had things like Grand Theft Auto. And this is where it started to get a little bit kind of, oh, right. So this is quite male dominated, isn't it, really? On many levels.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking back to sort of when, because I think my older children are around your age, and I'm not sure. I don't think we actually had any computers in the house. I didn't have a TV in the house for quite a lot of the 80s as well. But yeah.
I like that, though.
It was more sort of 90s that, I had an old Mac Plus where I used to get the kids they used to be able to have very, very basic stuff, but be creative with it. And I think we didn't get a ZX Spectrum till then, or I think we had a Commodore 64 where you could, the one where you could record your own games onto tapes and then make your own things up and record them and then play them back. Yes. And things like that.
So cool.
So I've always been more interested in the making side of things, I suppose, than the playing. But I think the thing around the way the gender was reflected in games, I mean, it's like any tech or any cultural thing. It's who's making it that people are making things without thinking. And I think that is one of the things that really bugs me is they make stuff that just reflects what's already out there, and they don't think about ways of how they might be able to challenge it, or until they get stick for why are the only women in your game prostitutes, or why are the only women in your game sort of non-talking characters, or why can't I play as a female character, or so that there are huge amounts of debates in the games industry and sort of cultural studies about representation, and that old thing about on the internet no one knows if you're a dog sort of thing, because you can play as anything, and so I've always been interested in that side of things. But games like Grand Theft Auto, where it just put me off. There haven't been many games that have made me think, actually, I would like to spend time engaging with this, instead of watching TV. So, I will watch TV. But in a way, it's because it's a less immersive experience, I can come out of it again to resume other things I'm meant to be doing. So again, it is that thing. I think for me, that thing of playing those big immersive games, losing myself in them, I've never really had the time to do that.
Yeah.
Because you're always on call. You're sort of waiting for someone to ask when dinner's ready. Or,
yes.
you know, and it's very hard to get out of that mindset once you've had children, or it is for me. I'm working on it now. They've all left home. But yeah.
I think that's still a thing. I don't have children. I chose not to have children. So I just sort of live my life like I did when I was sort of a teenager. So I kind of probably spend 2 or 3 hours a day gaming. So, you know, I kind of think of all my friends, and I don't really know many women who play computer games. It's or men, actually. I think I don't think it's anything to do with my kind of gender, or it's just from the minute I picked up a controller, or, you know, press those squidgy keyboard on the ZX Spectrum, I was just fascinated. But, you know, it wasn't until my sort of teenage years, or maybe even my 20s, that I noticed it was just so male dominated.
Yeah.
And all the kind of games were, as you say, they were written and designed by men. So
for the most part, yeah.
For the most part. I mean, there was Carol Shaw. She was the first game programmer and designer. And then later on, Donna Bailey at Atari, who was behind Centipede. I didn't know that, you know. Makes total sense because it's awesome. And us women are awesome. And Amy Hennig on Naughty Dog's Uncharted. I didn't realize that at all. And, you know, I feel ashamed for my own kind of...
But why would you know? I mean, you know, you shouldn't have to look up and see, was this done by a woman? You should just think, this game really rocks. I really like it. It reflects me. It's, you know, I mean, it depends what sort of game you're interested in playing. But I suppose I had that same fascination with computers the minute I started playing around with them. But for me, I was always interested in how I could use them as a creative tool rather.
Yes.
So I think it's a difference between producing things and consuming things. And so for me, that's the thing I really love about games, is actually making something where you can play it with other people, or you can give it to other people. So for me, it's sort of like, it's another form of creative expression, where you have to think through all the design decisions about, you know, what am I making? Who am I making it for? How do I want people to feel? You know, can I do something where I encourage this sort of behavior rather than that sort of behavior? You know, and not necessarily shout about what you're doing, but actually make it so that it is a game that, you know, so the things I like doing are things where you have to cooperate. You know, you have to actually work together. It's not about winning or losing, because I get very tired of that narrative of, you know, I'm the winner. You know, everyone else is being dumped. You know, I really hate all that sort of mentality, I suppose. And so for me, making games where you're encouraging children to cooperate, because otherwise it's sort of a small counterbalance to all the stuff they're learning everywhere else, which is about survival of the fittest, which is always misinterpreted, but it's taken to mean, you know, the strongest person will win, etc. But yeah, I think for me, games are about actually what can you do in them that makes people think differently, even if they're playing it and they're not realizing they're thinking differently. So you can introduce so many different concepts through a game. It's like any other artwork, but games, it's a bit like TV, how you can broaden people's horizons because they're playing a game and they're, you know, like you said, you get really immersed in it. You've spent 2 to 3 hours playing something where it might have characters you wouldn't encounter in real life. And if those characters are done well, then you start thinking about things from the viewpoint of that character, for example.
Yeah, it's crazy how much it's come on in the last couple of years. I mean, just very recently, in very recent times, the characters are getting more complex. The people who are sat around the table creating these characters and stories are becoming more diverse. So it's really exciting to see. You know, Grand Theft Auto, Rockstar there's rumours that they're releasing the next instalment, Grand Theft Auto 6, soon. And the rumour is that you'll be able to play a female character in story mode, because up until this point, the story modes tend to just have male characters. And then when it shifts to the online version, that's when you can sort of be male, female, gender neutral. So that's interesting. It's taken them a while. I mean, I find it crazy that it's taken them this long to pull the socks up, literally.
I think when people are financially successful with things and it's a very popular thing, they don't necessarily want to break what they've done. And if they are selling something that lots of people are playing without complaining, then why would they change it? I think the games industry as a whole, well, you can't really say as a whole, there's lots of different elements to the games industry. I suppose the bit I'm mostly around is sort of indie games people who like small companies or solo developers who are making things. But there are also lots of people challenging all those old norms, if you like, and saying, well, why don't you have more women on your writing team? You know, or just have a writing team, have people who actually write the narrative of your game rather than make the game and then stick a narrative on afterwards. So there's some, you know, there are people out there who are writing different stuff, you know, and developing different stuff. And there are people who are trying to push forward the agenda to get more women involved in the games industry, because it's like the tech industry as a whole. The number of women in tech has gone down since I did an MSc in 1993. I think it's gone down since then, which is ridiculous. Games industry in the UK has got slightly more women involved. It's still not 50-50, but that's the thing. We sort of see, we've got 20% female, 20% women, in our team, or 20% women in the industry, but actually there's no, why isn't it 50%? We don't think about why isn't the tech industry 50% female? Yeah. When women were the first coders, they were the first programmers, Yeah. And it's the same in games, why shouldn't women be involved at all levels?
Is it because the output is just creating this kind of male dominated field, and therefore there's this feeling that they're not welcome? Or is that a myth? Is it a myth also that women just aren't interested in gaming, that they might be interested in something else? Because there's all these things that people talk about. How can we get more women and girls to be interested in game design? Because it must be a fantastic place to work.
There's some great people in games, and I didn't really get into the idea of making games until about 10 years ago. So I was nearly 50.
Brilliant.
So they all think I'm completely barking. So I'm working, I'm very lucky because I live in Bristol and we have the Bristol Games Hub, which is like a bunch of different indie developers getting together and creating a space where there were desks, and for people to go and hot desk in, or people to go and work in there alongside each other. That's great. All working on their different things, running monthly events. There were some really good small companies in Bristol which are expanding still, and I have seen the number of women grow. It's like very small steps, and I think. I also set up a Women in Games meetup in Bristol called Girl Games, which I set up because I was in an event at the Games Hub, and there was, I think it was the launch of something or other. I can't remember what it was the launch of, something or other. And this young woman sort of wandered up to me and said, "Where are all the other women?" And I just thought, yeah, we probably should do something, shouldn't we? And with another young woman I know, we sort of started this monthly meetup for women in games, and we did it at the Games Hub precisely because we wanted those women who are coming in for the first time to be with us and to start feeling as though it was a space they could be comfortable in. And that was the reason for holding it there at the time, and just sort of trying to create a sort of a supportive peer network of women. And some of those women, and we had people coming who'd just moved to Bristol or who had just started getting into games, from sort of coding or art background, or they just graduated, and just trying to get them to sort of feel as though they had someone else who they'd recognise if they went to an event. So you might go to something, and I mean, I remember going to one of the monthly meetups at the Games Hub, and there's like 30 odd guys there. And they got me to stand up and say something about, Girl Games is a monthly meetup, tell your friends. I said, obviously I set it up because you can see why I need to set it up. I'm not sure a lot of the guys could see, but actually I was the only woman in the room.
Oh, gosh.
And it was just, personally, I don't feel as though I need it. I've always been fine at the Games Hub, but then I am old enough to be most of theirs mother. Most of them are the same age as my children are younger. I'm sort of, the mad old woman who comes and sort of, does stuff. And
mad old woman, come on.
I don't know, you should ask them. But no, it's been great, and I really love the people there. They're really supportive of Girl Games, yeah, and I sort of miss it because we haven't, for obvious reasons, we haven't met up in real life for a couple of years. But I do think talking to the women who I know who have got into games and trying to think how many of them actually did a degree in computer science or a degree in games technology. And I think there was maybe one or two, and other people have come to it through a roundabout way. So, yeah, one of my favourite women in games, and I think her first degree was in paleontology or something. I should know that really. but she's brilliant. She's absolutely brilliant games designer, and she came to Girl Games a lot, and she's worked on her own games. And I ran a Women in Games Jam in collaboration with there was sort of other ones in Brighton and in Leamington Spa and a couple in London, and that was supported by sort of a Feminist in Games network in Canada. And I got asked if I could run the Bristol one. And so we had a women in game, women's games, sort of games jam over the course of a weekend. And I introduced this woman to another woman who I met when I'd done a writing for games workshop at Arvon. And they went on to create something at this games jam, which they then carried on working on afterwards because they got the game we most want to see developed from everybody else who was there. We sort of had a little vote on what game would you like to see developed properly. And it just gave them the incentive to carry on. And they got nominated for a BAFTA a couple of years
fabulous.
ago. And it's a game that they've worked on, sort of quietly just got on with it. Couldn't get funding from anyone because it wasn't commercial. It's a game called Before I Forget. It's all about you play it from the perspective of a woman with dementia.
Oh.
And so and it's beautifully done.
Such a lovely idea.
It's absolutely beautiful. So, and that, Shella and Claire worked on that. And it's just great, sort of those little connections you can make and then see how, you just give people like a little tiny connection and then together they make amazing stuff. And I think it's sort of stories like that and thinking, oh yeah, that started from us doing Girl Games, and I think it's stories like that just keep you going and thinking, well, it can be tiring to keep doing something. But then when you remember, you think of the stories of, people who are doing amazing stuff now and think, actually, it's worth it because you don't know what little spark, you're lighting which fire.
And you've been the little spark there in Bristol by starting Girl Games and getting people together and showing, what's possible just by sort of being in the same room with other people that look like you, that think like you.
Well, also being quite bossy and telling them that they are brilliant, because I think that's another thing is, I know, I've sort of gone completely off track here because we were talking about why girls don't do games. But I think one of the things I have noticed is I get some amazingly talented women coming along who I've met through the Girl Games or whatever, and they don't have that ego or self-belief. You don't, and I think you need one or the other. You do need to believe in yourself a bit to cope with the setbacks.
Yes.
And I think it's much easier to cope with setbacks if you've got people around you who go, no, but you are brilliant.
Yeah. It's the support network. It's knowing that you're not alone. And, because if things have been very much the same for a long time, figuring out kind of, how to move forward and better represent women and girls in the game industry. I mean, it's coming at it from two angles, isn't it? You need the people there in the first place who are writing the stories and making the stories and designing the games to actually be women. And then on the other hand, that will then make women feel more Well, it's a bit like the cycling dilemma, isn't it? You're never going to get people to go out on bikes on the road unless you create a culture around a safe cycling.
Yeah, but there are a lot of people. I mean, there's a massive Women in Games network in the UK, which tries to support and encourage and network women. And so if you go to any games conference, they'll probably be there organising some meetup. So like Develop in Brighton in July, they usually have like a networking lunch, and it's always rammed with women sort of connecting.
Yes.
I think one of the things another thing that inspired me to do the Girl Games was I was on I can't even remember where the funding came from, but one of the companies I knew in Bristol was involved in running a women's games jam in London. I think that was probably 2012 or something. And it was at Mind Candy, I think. It was a very sort of like fabulous, London creative space with sort of very multicolored armchairs and stuff. And I went to that with Jess, who I later set up Girl Games with. And she had a degree in journalism, and my background is I did a degree years ago in fine art, and then I've been working in creative tech research for like 20 odd years beforehand. After the degree. And then we went to this thing thinking, well, we know the people who are organising it. It could be really interesting, but we don't know what we have to offer. And I ended up, they do that thing like school teams where they pick who's going to work with who. And I was sort of standing on the edge, sort of not really being picked. And I ended up working with these two really wonderful women, one of whom was a mum of 3 who worked in Tesco's part-time and was doing an evening course in games design.
Oh, amazing.
And I worked with her and this other woman who was a coder, who I don't think she'd ever made a game before, but she was a programmer. And the 3 of us made a game. And so I ended up doing the art on it on my basically ended up being pixel art because I had a tiny netbook with a trackpad. So pixel art was much easier. But, we got a special mention. We didn't win anything. We got a special mention, got a bit of a kick out of it. And the one of those women, the one who's got children, she's now working, for the last few years, she's been working full time on, for a, mainstream game development company, running different projects. I saw her at Develop. She's doing amazing stuff. And she's just so unassuming about herself.
Yeah.
And it's
the
just,
ego doesn't come into it. It's just doing something you're passionate about. And...
Yeah. I think, yes. Yeah, definitely. But I think those times where you've sort of been in those, I'm not saying that all women are lovely. I went to an all-girls school, so I completely know that. But it took me a long time to do women-only stuff after going to a girls' grammar school. But anyway.
Oh, gosh, I bet.
That whole thing of, for me, when I create those spaces, it's, I run the Girl Games Network, but I also run games jams. We might do a one-day one so that people who have kids don't feel guilty about offloading their kids for the day. We did one which was sort of like 1.5 days, and we got the funders to fund a crash as well to try and, brilliant. I was involved in community stuff in the 1980s, sort of my local city farm. Everything we ran back then had a crash. You did not run anything without a crash. And it just
makes total sense, doesn't it?
Yeah, if you want to be inclusive and you want parents to come, you're on a crash, because even women who have partners feel guilty leaving their children with their partner for the weekend. So it's just, but again, it's that thing of running games jams and workshops, trying to make it as easy as possible for people to come, and also telling them, come, you have something to offer. Because so many women especially think, I don't have anything to offer. And it's like, well, just come and have ideas. We can make up a story together. You don't have to do it on your own, or you can do it on your own. And trying to make a space where they actually get to have fun doing some sort of creative process. And I think regardless of what age group I work with, that's what I try and do. So when I was doing the creative tech research, we had this sort of new software. It was like pre-mobile phone days, but we had this software where you could locate things in the street, and then you could walk along the street and hear them, and you had like big GPS units sat on your head because they didn't work if they were in your pocket. This is pre-mobile phones, which are all singing or dancing these days. So, and I worked with 5-year-olds and I worked with people in their 80s. And it's always the same thing as like, no, you actually do have something to say. What you say is valid. And I think I've always taken that approach. And so that as well, when I'm doing the games workshops with teenagers or with older people, is like, well, actually, it's one of the first things you're doing is unpicking all the stuff they've learned at school about how what they know isn't good enough. And it's like, well, this isn't an exam for you to pass. This is a space for you to create something and enjoy creating something and not feel as though you're not valid or you're not worth it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've done, so the games jams that we run for the girl games are very different from the traditional games jam, if you like. So they might be shorter so that women can engage who've got kids, or, so they might be just a day-long one. I think the main thing is, for me, it's not about racing to the finish line. So with a lot of games jams, you get lots of, let's pull an all-nighter and code this so it works. And it's like, well, no, let's not. Let's just actually approach this like sensible human beings. We don't have to stay all night.
Let's just have fun.
Let's have fun. It's more about the idea. It's not about having something that works at the end of it. It's about you going through the thought processes of what do I need to do to make a game? And so our games jams are much more relaxed, or I hope they're more relaxed. There are always some people who feel that pressure, and it's like if you don't spot it, and go along and say, look, it doesn't have to be a finished thing. This is not a competition.
You don't have to be a perfectionist in this. It's more about the process, the journey. Yeah. That's where the fun happens.
Yeah. So that's sort of what that's what I try and do. So I've got two different, because we haven't really been meeting over lockdown. So I've got sort of plans to run a one-day girl games jam just to get us all back together. Every time I think about doing something like that, then I hear about another COVID outbreak after a get-together. I'm thinking I might back off a little. But
when's that happening then?
Well, I don't know. But I do have two things. So one thing I've got is I'm running a work experience week for girls in year 10.
Oh my goodness, can I rewind back the clock and come and be?
You can come and play. But you're welcome to come and play. It's going to be in Bristol. But that was because I got a dad getting in touch with me and saying, my daughter really wants to get work experience in a games company and asking me if I would do it. And it's like, I know that there are none of the indie games companies I know have got the capacity to take on work experience. They're inundated with people usually asking for their teenage boys. So what I thought I would do was run a week for a group of girls together. Yeah. So, just because then they've also got their little network of peer girls who they can chat about stuff.
That'll have such an impact on them.
I hope. I mean, I'm not saying they'll all go out and get careers in the games industry, but they'll know you can make stuff. It's like teaching kids how to make film. They'll know they can make film and TV if you show them how to use a camera.
Absolutely, but it will instill confidence in them and give them, that kind of push to realise that they can do anything they want. They can be anything they want. It's possible. They are welcome.
Yes, well, that's the thing. I mean, there are always going to be idiots along the way who tell them they're not welcome, but then they'll have that. It's giving them a peer network to fall back on. So where you talk to your friends and go, and then you would not believe what he said next. So it's a bit like you need that sort of thing. But it's for women. Women need that in any industry. It's not just games. It's not just tech. It's just more noticeable in games and tech.
When it comes to the very tools we use to be creative, sometimes they don't quite stretch enough to meet our needs. If you're a professional artist with an iPad, you'll know only too well some of the limitations you face when trying to make art. Astropad Studio is something that will definitely spark your interest. It's the ultimate iPad app that is designed to give the flexibility of an Apple Pencil combined with the full desktop power of software like Illustrator or Photoshop. Sound good? There's a 30-day free trial of Astropad Studio waiting for you today. Plus save 10% on your first year when you enter the promo code BOOM at checkout. That applies to whether you opt for a monthly or an annual subscription. Just go to astropad.com to get started. In the graphic design industry, I have a bunch of peers who I have to fall back on quite frequently because we all suffer the same problems, shall we say, and often by the same people, which is really amusing. Yeah. Oh, did he say that again? Oh, did you get patted on the head again? Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
And this is happening in our 40s. It really it frustrates me so much. So when I see that we've still got a long way to go there, but also in the gaming industry, I mean, when you think that gaming probably it probably breaks in way more than Hollywood. So in that case, is 100 times more.
It's one of the biggest contributors to the UK economy. And during lockdown, it was the only industry that expanded. I don't know the stats, but I know they're out there. But I do know that, in terms of things that the government should be thinking about supporting, the games industry is definitely massive, and it did expand. So, and I think there is definitely a shortage of talent. People I know, the good people are really overwhelmed with the amount of work that they can do, should they wish to. And then the other thing that you were doing, you said, so you've got two things. So the first is that with the girls. Yes.
But then
the other one, I'm doing. I'm running a residential weekend at Clay Hill Arts, which is this really lovely space in rural Somerset, and it will be the same sort of thing, but with adults. So it's the same sort of thing. It's like, come along and design a game, and you don't have to. With all of my courses, you don't have to be able to use a computer. I want to get that. That's something that can come later. Designing a game is all about thinking about what we call the story world of the game. Who's in your game? What does it do? How does it make you feel? We could do something around the look and the feel of it. What sort of music do you want? But you can come at it from any angle. You can start with a piece of music and go, actually, what images would go with this? What sort of experience do I want people to enjoy while they're playing my game? Yeah. And so really for me, it's using it as another way of getting people to think about expressing themselves and what they like doing, and giving them the confidence to actually say, okay, but we're framing it with the game, if you like. And then just asking questions that help them not feel too overwhelmed, think, oh, this could be really, really big, but actually, what are the most important things to you? And then using language, like with the girls that I'm working with, I'll be, instead of saying, okay, let's put a design document on the wall, it's like, okay, let's create a mood board, because that is something that's shorthand for, a lot of people have come across this concept of the mood board, and it's basically getting all your ideas onto one physical piece of cardboard, if you like. Yeah. And actually,
which is a fun process in itself.
Yeah. And it's, collaging sort of all the things you like together and thinking about them and making notes. And then actually, well, how does that translate into a game? And then being more specific about it and going, well, the game would look like this. It would do this. This is how you control, how easy do you control it with your eyes or your fingers? Or are you moving a chair? Or, you can go down to all those different more and more design decisions. The more, if you want to. And the idea is at the end of it, you'd have had the sort of process of two days or so of working amongst people, just hopefully having fun, thinking about what you would like to see as your game.
And people can book for that, can't they?
Yeah, people can book for that. Yeah, it's on the website. There's a picture of my grandson playing my game. That's my thing, which is quite nice. So people can book for it. But I think for me, it's like anything. It's like I'm guiding people through a process. I'm not telling them what they have to do, but I'm just trying to get them to think about what they would like to do. And then at the end of it, if they did want to find someone to do the coding side for them, or if they were from a coding background, they would have enough to get started with actual physically making the game. But we're not going to talk about. We're not going to start doing any of the technical stuff. It's more about, actually, this is what I wanted to look at.
This is the idea.
This is my idea. This is all the creative thing, which is also good for people who are, from the technology side, because they don't always get that time to think about the creative side. So I'm trying to make it a place for so if someone's an artist and wants to make something beautiful, it's okay, well, what would that beautiful thing look like? But also, how do you play it? Do you play it alone? Do you play it together? Do you play it online? Do you play it with someone who's in another country? Could
it be something that, people with disabilities can play as well? Because I know people who, struggle with the controller in some cases. And if a game's too intense, they won't be able to play it. So it's things like that, and thinking about, inclusive design, colours, and
so there's all that
so
stuff
much
and
to think about.
There's some really good resources on accessibility, and different games charities like Special Effect, who work to sort of create special interfaces for people who've got different abilities or different issues with mobility, or they use eye trackers, so like eye gaze, things like that.
So good.
So again, but it's actually, when you're designing a game, it's like knowing that stuff is there, and then you're actually consciously saying, actually, no, it doesn't work like that. But at least you're saying it consciously rather than accidentally. I think that's one of me, is where people think, oh, I didn't think of that. It's like, well, why didn't you think of it?
Yeah, I think if I was one of your students on that course, I would probably go quite dark and do something like Inside. Have you heard of Inside? That was made by this little independent company called Playdead. They also did a game called Limbo.
I've seen Limbo, yeah.
Yeah, and Inside is just this little kind of puzzle platformer adventure game. Very simple strategy, beautifully made. I mean, it is literally like, for you and I, having grown up in the eras that we have, and probably the fiction that we've read and everything that's going on now. It's dark, it's dystopian. It's a little boy running through a forest, and he's like hiding behind trees, and there's these sort of mysterious cars coming out of nowhere. And eventually it gets weirder and weirder. And it gets so weird and scary that I literally had to give the controller to my husband to finish playing. But I think I would go there. I would choose something very dark and ominous, and I would like go into the kind of depths of my imagination and see just how dark I could possibly go, which is probably quite disturbing. And I'll change the subject very quickly.
No, that is absolutely totally allowed. And I think, it's self-expression. If you want to express how you feel about something, then, I'm not going to say, oh, that's a bit dark, or I might say, oh, that's a bit dark, but I'm not going to say, and stop doing it now, because, it's, I mean, there are certain things I might draw the line at,
Yes.
But,
oh, no, I wouldn't.
But
I think it would be more kind of dystopian, like a kind of
dark and dystopian is totally fine.
Yeah.
Reflecting today's society. But, I don't have that wouldn't be a problem. I'm not expecting everyone to do fluffy bunnies and, hopping through fields of flowers.
Well, you never know.
Unless they want to.
Yeah, it might end up being really good. I mean, we all loved Animal Crossing during 2020 and the pandemic. I got so into that, I would go out for walks. On my daily walks, I'd walk past a twig and I'd go, oh, I could pick that up and make a tree. Or, sorry, not make a building. And I think, oh my God, Katie, you really need to put the controller down. But yeah, I mean, it's really nice seeing that these things are happening, and it is changing, and more women are working behind the scenes. We're seeing that with the output. It's demanded now, which is fantastic. I suppose just looking at Lara Croft's evolution over the years, you can see, the real success we're having in representation now. She was hugely sexualized back in the day, but men were quite happy to play that character.
Yeah, wasn't it based on the guy's sister as well, which is a little bit.
It's a bit strange. I don't know. I'm not.
Well, I think that's why he hadn't occurred to him.
Right.
I don't know. That could just be a myth. That could just be a myth. But also, Rhianna Pratchett worked on Lara Croft, didn't she?
She did. Yes,
and
I didn't
I'm sure
realise
that she would have had an influence on. Had
the
a very good influence on it.
It's a reflection of our culture and how much we've grown, how much we've changed and evolved, and
not everyone's evolved though. But I mean, I think if you look at people like Anita Sarkeesian and her Feminist Frequency videos that she did about representation of women in games, and the grief that she's had over doing that, but her video, I mean, I actually did a talk to students on the games technology course at UE. And I said, how many of you have actually watched any of her videos? And none of them had. And I said, well, I challenge you to go and watch one and then work out why it annoys you. So,
Yeah.
Because she annoys people who haven't actually watched her videos.
Exactly. Well, did you hear about Gamergate?
Well, yes.
Yeah.
It's like, that was awful. I got asked if I would give a comment on something and I said no. You
just didn't want to get involved in the kind of foray.
there's no point. I just, I'm not going to get an argument with people who who would probably be absolutely terrified if they met me in real life.
Well, I love that. I mean, it is frustrating. I mean, there's all this positivity going on, the more diverse stories, but then you had The Last of Us 2 in 2020, was it? Or was it 2019? The Last of Us 2. Have you heard of this game?
I've heard of it. I haven't played it.
So it's a stunning game. It's one of my favourite ever. Yeah. I can't give anything away if people haven't played it, but I have never cried so much. I was shaking. I had to put the controller down. I was so involved with the main characters. Basically, it was just incredible. So Naughty Dog hired Neil Druckmann and Hallie Gross, to write The Last of Us 2. Mm-hmm. And you can see that Hallie's voice is definitely there. The characters are beautiful. Ellie and Abby. They're kind of the first, I think, to be depicted in that way. But they weren't sexualized at all in the slightest, and they were complex and they were broken and they were human. It was so relatable. However, the reaction online,
reaction online to all sorts of stuff.
Oh my goodness, they were like, "You've ruined the game. You're pushing the gay agenda." What gay agenda? What the hell? So I loved it. I personally adored it. I know we're going into sort of,
You see, games can have this effect on people.
Awful territory
but
here
that is everywhere.
And misogyny.
You look at the comments under any article that's written online or any newspaper article. You look at, the horrible things that people feel quite free to say to each other. And you just think, well, what can you do? What can you do about them? I just don't allow comments. Just don't allow comments. That there are people like that out there because you sometimes might hear them on the bus.
Yeah, I mean, it is frustrating. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn's another triumph, I feel. It's from Guerrilla Games. The main character is Aloy. She's brilliant, and it's such a beautiful masterpiece of a game.
It's just nice having characters that don't have to wear lipstick, high heels, and have a push-up bra. Yeah.
Yes. Which is why I never played Lara Croft, because it just didn't appeal to me.
But the other thing as well is I'm very a lot of these ones where you can play as a female character, but the actual game itself is still very male, if you like. So it's not like actually challenging anything. It's just letting you play it as a woman in a pair of shorts and a tank top. And it's just like, well, so for me, it's almost like, whitewashing, or I can't remember, I don't know what the word for gender washing or something. But it just, for me, it's sort of, it's still this hero trope, I like watching Marvel movies as much as anyone, but I'm still very aware of the fact that it shouldn't be about, the hero comes and saves us. For me, it's sort of, where are the stories about people collecting, Avengers Assemble, obviously, but that thing of people collecting together to do something to make the world a better place for everyone, and we can't just wait for a superhero to turn up. It's those very small everyday interactions between people that make the world a better place. So things like, the stuff we saw in lockdown, where some people who were already involved in community activism just stepped up and organised shit. They organised so much stuff, They got rotas for people collecting prescriptions. They made sure people weren't starving. They made sure people weren't on their own all the time. Those sorts of everyday, those sorts of superheroes, in a way. Those sorts of narratives are the ones I'd be interested in seeing, but not just in games, in everything else, Do men and women expect different things from their games? Because you can't say men and women, I don't think. I really don't think you can say men and women. You can say a certain type of man or a certain type of woman, and there are stats on, actually women over 40 play games more than anyone else.
Right.
But it's games that are dismissed by, hardcore immersive gamers because it's things like Candy Crush or, Animal Crossing. Well, not necessarily Animal Crossing, but Candy Crush and all sorts of little phone-based games that you play while you're, when you've got 5 minutes and the kids aren't screaming at you. Or although when you're over 40, the kids tend to be older. So, so all that. I don't think...
We're all individuals, aren't we? That's the point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the thing for me is that, I've got 5 children. I've got 3 girls and I've got 2 boys. And I would not, having known them since they were born, I would say you couldn't really say that the way they were was because of their gender. And so all that gender stuff is mostly what you learn anyway.
Yes, it's forced upon us.
But you absorb it. It's not necessarily forced, but you absorb it without realising. And the way that people treat boys and girls differently. But also, I've been a parent for 44 years this year. And so it's like I have seen lots of children grow up and lots of boys and lots of girls, and they all have different things. And you wouldn't really separate them out into boys and girls. I mean, they're men and women now, or women and men.
All grown up.
And so for me, it's the same thing with games. It's like, it's undeniable that there are certain genres where women will respond more to it, or films that a lot more women will respond to it.
Yes.
Or straight women will respond to, or whatever. So things like when Bridesmaids came out, the film, absolutely massive hit.
Yeah.
Completely unexpected because it's like, I know. I can't watch it again, though. I absolutely loved watching it. But I could not watch it a second time because it was just so...
cringy.
Yeah, and it wasn't really a comedy. But it was brilliant. But it was one of those things where it's all about the women.
Yes.
And so there is a massive audience out there of women who are starved for things to watch, but I'd say mostly women. But I don't think you can necessarily say men like something and women like something. It's just much more complex than that.
I think what I kind of probably meant and said it pretty badly was
don't worry, it's usually me.
I think what I'm trying to get at is do we play games differently? Because, you go on, these walkthroughs on YouTube. It's quite interesting looking at the way men play computer games compared to women. Men might sort of steam through and sort of, not dwell on things. Women, and this is only in my experience. I might be completely wrong. I'm sure there's psychologists out there who've done many tests on this, but women tend to sort of dwell on things, open up notes and read them properly. And
yeah, I had that experience playing with my younger son, who, when he was about 4 or so, and I had a game called Bugdom on my Mac laptop.
Right.
And I played it, and it's basically there's ants and there's ladybirds, and you have to escape the ants. And so I was basically doing a lot of running away from things. And then he got on it, and he was basically running up to all these ants and kicking the shit out of them. And I was like... I was really horrified, but it's just he was much more experimental than me, than I was. But I think also he had never been conditioned to not experiment.
Right.
So I think girls tend to, girls tend to be constrained more than boys. Boys tend to be allowed more freedom to explore, and, even if you don't realise you're doing it with your own children, I think there is that gendered upbringing that affects how they will behave in a thing. So when he was older, 10 years later, and we were playing, oh God, I can't remember what it was called. Skyrim, maybe?
Skyrim, I love Skyrim.
Was it the one where you could be a snow leopard?
Oh, I don't know, actually. Yeah, I think
or
so. It's been a long time. Yes,
you could change your yeah. So he spent hours working out what character he was.
That's great.
And then we started playing it, and he was walking past all the clues, and I was like, no, hang on, click on that. And he was just basically powering through without bothering to get, and then wondering why he couldn't get through.
I love Skyrim.
Yeah, so it's that whole thing of his approach was just to run into things without thinking.
So this is what I'm saying, it's like...
But I don't know whether that was necessarily because he was born a boy, but because he's been brought up a boy. So I suppose that's
nurture
my point. it's a lot of it is around the nurture of how boys are expected to behave and how we encourage them to behave. And we don't do the same with girls. And if you look at play studies of children and the area that they roam in.
Yeah.
So, this is from play work studies, but girls tend to not go as far as boys.
Right.
So that they're sort of geographically, they're restricted more. And when they get older, the boys' geographical area is bigger and the girls get even smaller.
Right.
So that thing around how the messages that we send to girls about, no, you mustn't do this, you mustn't do that, that's not safe. It's all the onus is on girls to not do things because they're not safe. Whereas boys don't get that message as much. So I think it's the messaging that we give to young people affects how they behave in so many different ways.
Yeah. I see that on Red Dead Online when I'm playing. When they realise that you're a female character, things change as well, which is quite interesting.
They protect you a lot.
Well, no, actually the opposite. They get really creepy.
It's so funny, isn't it? It's lovable. It's lovable ridiculous. In a way. But it's like, oh, instant girlfriend.
The ridiculousness of it is that I've fallen for it hook, line and sinker, because when I was creating my character for Red Dead, I thought, right, I'm going to make her as attractive as possible. I'm going to make her blonde. I'm going to live out my blonde Marilyn fantasies. And I'm like... ridiculous.
Another woman who was underappreciated.
Probably, yeah. Nobody loves me. Anyway, so
you see, my immediate one would be to do the tank girl approach.
Oh, yeah, badass.
It's shaved head, big boots.
Yeah,
I had a friend who was going off travelling and she said whenever she went travelling, before she went, she would shave her head.
Yeah,
because then the guys wouldn't hit on her.
Yeah, great.
So
liberating. I have a friend who's exactly the same, and she's just grown her hair. And I horrified her the other day because I said to her, "Oh, I really love your hair. You look really pretty. I mean, you're always pretty, but I'm always saying the wrong thing." And she went, "Do you know what? I hate that. I think I'm going to shave it off again." Because now, men kind of are treating me differently, whereas before, I got a bit more respect. And I'm like, really? Gosh, does that happen? I just walk around like I'm in some sort of innocent Animal Crossing bubble. It's either kind of defense mechanism that is shielding me from the way the world actually is, or I am just generally a, bumbling idiot.
Well, or it's because you've hit your 40s, although you don't look it.
Oh, thanks, darling.
But, it's the invisible woman syndrome.
Oh, yes. Yeah, invisible woman. Well,
I've had friends who've had insane rudeness when they've been trying to get to the bar because they're women in their 60s and we're just completely not meant to be there.
Is this why you sort of have such fantastic hair, Constance?
Oh, what, the red streaks?
Yeah,
well,
I love it.
To be honest, I went grey at a very early age. Not that I'm blaming my children for anything. And I was completely white-haired. And then I did shave my head with a friend, just
for a laugh.
Yeah, well, it was one of those charity things where she was having chemo, and so I said I'd shave my head to keep her company.
Oh.
And that was rather hilarious. It's on YouTube as well.
Is it? Have you got a YouTube channel?
No. Well,
are you a streamer?
No. If you Google Constance Baldy Locks, it comes up. Anyway, it was quite good fun, but it was a long time ago. But and so I've had quite white hair for a long time, and then I think it was after a general election. And I just thought, I don't want to look like a normal white middle-class woman anymore because I don't want to look like someone who agrees with the status quo in this country.
Yeah, exactly.
And then, so I had them for quite a long time and then I stopped getting them done. And then last autumn, I just thought, no, I'm getting them put back in again.
I love it. I have the benefit of being 6 foot tall on my side.
Wow.
So I can tower over a lot of men.
Yes. Again, I think that thing of not being petite. I've got a friend who's much shorter than me. And we were both living in Berlin, and every day she was getting harassed on the U-Bahn, on the tube trains, every day. And I worked out what it was because I was watching and I said, what it is you're smiling at people. So like someone would look at her and she'd look up and smile, and she's sort of like, you know, big eyes, big smile, 5 foot nothing. And I was like, I realised that I was basically stomping around being 5'7", which isn't massively tall, but
you're
taller.
A titch compared to me. You're
compared to you. Some of my best friends are 6 foot. But also it's the look on my face, I think.
Yeah.
You know, as a child I was told, oh, it's a shame. It's a shame.
No, come
Something
on.
about it was a shame about my face because...
I thought you meant confidence, you know.
No, I just think because I'm sort of generally, my resting face is sort of like...
You were saying
my
this
mouth
before,
goes
actually.
down at the corners.
No, it does not.
It does.
You were saying this
I've got my
before. You were a
grandmother's
mad woman at these events, this bossy woman. But surely that's not the case at all. You know, again, both of us have been messed up by what we've been sort of fed over our lifetimes and what we've seen and how we've been represented in games and films, in books and all the rest of it. We're not bossy by being assertive and confident. And we have that thing that follows us behind like a kind of, you know, haunting death who's like saying, you know, shush little girl, be a good little girl, quiet little girl,
don't be the bad one,
don't be the one that speaks up, good girls don't say anything, and
I was always
accept the status quo.
I was always sort of like, but why? You know,
same.
The mouthy one.
Why are all the toys pink? I mean, God, some of the things I used to do to my baby doll toys that my mum sometimes tried to buy me. I mean, I refused to railway tracks.
I refused to buy Barbies for my daughters, so they had to get them all from their dad. He used to buy stuff for them when they went to his house. They used to get the Barbies, and they were allowed to watch EastEnders because I banned soaps before when we did have a TV briefly when they were older.
We weren't allowed.
I banned them from watching any soaps. Yeah, because I just thought, well, actually, the ways that they teach conflict resolution aren't very good.
No, they're really not. I think that's all
about, I know, I'll set fire to your house because I don't like, that's maybe a bit of an exaggeration, but...
You can tell you've worked with children, by the way, because my mum was a primary school teacher throughout her entire career. And so some of the things you've come out with during our conversation, I've heard before, you know, some of the things that occur. And she worked with 3 and 4-year-olds, which was fascinating.
Yeah.
And
they're brilliant.
And a chance to make a real difference and make a real impact.
Well, that's the thing with small... I mean, that's the thing. So when I was designing my current game, which was called Kissy Kissy, but I've just changed it because people got put off by the name because they thought it was really weird.
Oh.
I know. So I've changed it to Onesie World. It's fine. But
Onesie World.
Onesie World, but spelt with a W. Because you
need to update your website, love. It's a skip.
I know. I know this is a very new thing, so I need to update the entire website. I've got a bit lax over the last couple of years, but
there's been something going around.
I know, but one of the things that also, because I haven't been able to keep up with my grandchildren, but that game is actually based on, this is a pre-lockdown we started it, but it's based on my grandsons who are identical twin feral boys from Tooting, and it's based on them running away from kisses. So the whole idea of the game is that you're playing it as a toddler and you have to build a den to hide in from your grandparents so they can't kiss you.
I'm looking at it now. It looks so cute.
It is incredibly cute. Brilliant artist, Harry. He's great. He's our token guy on the team. But he's just such a brilliant illustrator.
Oh, he really is.
We've had really good fun with it. But one of the things with that was thinking about, you know, children and grandchildren, that whole thing about how people encourage boys to behave and don't encourage girls, and wanting to make a game that boys and girls would play.
Yes.
And I know if you look back to things like, you know, talking to my niece who was born in the late 80s, I think, and she used to love playing Sonic because she didn't know if Sonic was a boy or a girl.
Yeah, same.
You know, I mean, now we do that. He's in a film, which I watched 5 minutes of the other day and had to stop. But trying to create characters where I thought, well, actually, it doesn't matter if they're a boy or a girl.
No.
And it was interesting when I was doing the initial PR for that game, and I know it was another game I was doing where the character was gender neutral, and people assumed it was a male character. So by default, everything is male.
Yeah.
And so one of the things I'm trying to sort of say is that, you know, these characters aren't boys or girls.
Yeah. That's wonderful.
And it's just, but it's just trying to think, well, get people to think, well, actually, no, it doesn't matter if they're boys or girls, does it?
No, it doesn't.
But the fact that with the previous game I started making, the character, you play that from the eye level of a sort of 9-10-year-old child. Because to me, that's a really important time where life shouldn't be gendered, because of practical stuff,
We want to make everybody feel included, don't we?
Yes, but also we want to make people feel included, and also the sort of bigger message being that it shouldn't matter whether a character is male or female.
No.
And what are the signs and the signifiers that we use to define whether something or somebody is male or female? It's like when you're with the kid on the bus and they say, why is that man pregnant, for example? Or, the children will ask questions because they're learning.
Curious.
And you don't realise how gendered everything we do is, because our language isn't as gendered as French or German or Spanish, for example, but we still use gendered stuff.
Yes.
And I was in a cafe years ago and bumped into someone, and her daughter said to her, oh, mummy, what's that person doing? And I just thought, oh, God, that's just such a simple shift in our language. Instead of saying that man or that woman, where you're making assumptions about whether someone is a man or a woman from what you know of men and women. If you say person, you're training your child not to look for the gender first.
Yes.
And it's just such a simple thing. And so many people don't do it.
No. And
I just, I try to do it. I know, people used to laugh at sort of feminists saying person hole cover, ha, 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 all that stuff around language. But language is important. The way we use it does actually reinforce. It reflects what we think, and it reinforces it as well. And trying to actually put that into a game where, okay, let's not have anything that signifies gender. How easy or hard is it to do that?
I bet it's really difficult, because you're going on your own biases. You're going on the very things that you've fundamentally always known.
Yes.
So in that case, that's where game design and development, it really has to reach out to employ people from various backgrounds, and then have more people sat around that table saying, right, this is the way we could possibly do it. And you know what?
Yes.
They're not always going to get it right.
No, and it's like trying to shift a whole load of stuff culturally as well. I mean, Shella, who I mentioned before, who's the writer that she's working for a games company in Sweden now, but she wrote Before I Forget, and she's also involved in an initiative called People of Colour in Play, and that was about trying to bring together people in different backgrounds. So again, it's that thing of having a supportive peer network of people who've got your back. Because if you look at the demographics of the games industry, places like London, there should be a lot more black people involved in the games industry, and there aren't. And why is that? So it's looking at why is, and a lot of it is is it because they're not going to university and they're not doing the games courses to get them there, or, it's really complicated, but also it's that getting people to think about, okay, if you're setting up an apprenticeship, how are you recruiting? Where are you recruiting? What are your biases in your recruitment? So there are some really practical things around that, which is for gender and for colour and, disability.
It goes back to that kind of initial question that we were discussing about, why aren't there more women and girls working in the game industry and playing games? Is it because they don't feel welcome?
I think there's that thing of making it a place that recruits women, that encourages girls to see it as a viable career option. So then you have to work with schools, you have to work with you have to get them before they make their choices. Starts
early, doesn't it?
But also with things like if you're running a degree and look at what A-levels they're doing, if they haven't, just girls still get put off doing computing A-levels. Not everyone, but I've sort of worked around women in tech initiatives, and a lot of women ended up doing a degree in English or business studies when really they wanted to do computing. But they were put off. But it's not enough to recruit young women to come in and sort of change it, you also have to support the ones who are already there.
Yes.
So there are companies that are doing initiatives, around flexible working, for example, or acknowledging that the women I think again, it shouldn't just be focused on the women. It should be, if you run a company that offers flexible working and
should be for
paid
everyone.
parental leave and allows fathers to take responsibility for their children,
exactly.
then it's a better place for women as well. So it's that whole
better
thing
for everyone.
If you make family friendly employment practices, and there will always be, I was trying to think of a polite word. There will always be.
You can swear.
I was going to say assholes, but
Yes.
there will always be assholes who put you off once you're working somewhere, or who
are threatened by
you, or get promoted above you, or don't like being promoted above them. That's always going to happen. But it's just having the strength and the support to get past those people, if you like.
So if there's any women listening to this and they're thinking, actually, I'd love to work in game design. I'd love to be a games developer. I've never really sort of considered what the next step is. Then, gosh, there's so many kind of meetups like the things that you're running in Bristol. Just get out there and meet others. And that's where the sort of confidence builds if it's lacking.
Yeah.
And that's where the network starts to grow.
Yeah.
And beautiful things can happen, like a random kind of, let's see what we can make in a day.
Yeah. And I think it is getting out there and networking, but it's also building your portfolio, whatever that is. So if you're a writer, get your writing going. If you want to do the artwork, create the artwork.
Or the music.
Yeah, or the music. There's some, games music is a good thing as well. Or coding. There are lots more, because there are lots of resources. So like Unity, for example, does lots of resources for kids to learn coding. You can work your way through those. It just make stuff, make your website. Ignore my website. It needs revamping. But,
well, I always think if it isn't like, the latest kind of, up to date, it means that person's very successful and very busy, right?
Yeah, that's my excuse.
I think it's a lovely website. I don't know what you're on about.
Well, I've got quite a few at the moment, so I just need to consolidate them. But yeah.
What does it mean, by the way, where you've got on your website, creating digital bindweed?
Oh, God, that's an old one. It's part of my thing of that whole way that you pull things together or hold people together, I suppose, or hold things together. So bindweed, once you've got it, you can't get rid of it.
Yes.
And so this
is that what would happen if we became friends, which I wouldn't be able to get rid of you at all. Can I just come to Bristol?
I think it's I'm trying to be much less active on Facebook and social media. It's all moved to WhatsApp now. The digital bindweed, I just quite like this idea of the things that we make just are out there and other people can see it or feel it, or it's just connecting people. But
yes.
also bindweed because it's one of those flowers that has a resonance for me, because when I was little we used to sort of pop it and we say, "Granny, pop out of bed." And so again, that for me it's quite a meaningful flower, I suppose. But
because great things happen when we come together. And
yes, it's like we are connected whether we want to be or not. And so if you acknowledge that you're connected, then why not try and do positive connections? So it's just trying to keep the positive connections and making those more important.
Yeah. And game design, as we'll leave it, has got so much potential.
You can do it for anything. You can use it for anything. I mean, there are so many good things, and it gives a lot of pleasure to a lot of people. And I think the more positive narratives and narratives that expand people's horizons and broaden their minds that you can get into games, the better, really.
Okay, well, I could, as you well know, go on about this for another 3 hours with you, but we've already taken up lots of your time. And thank you so much. I'll leave all the information about the upcoming workshop in the show notes. How many places are on that course?
Oh, I don't know. I haven't. I should know that, really, shouldn't I? There are definitely places left. because I spoke to someone today.
So
but I don't know. But they should have a look and sign up.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about Constance Fleuriot, you can find everything you need in our show notes via creativeboom.com/podcast, including details of her upcoming course at Clay Hill Arts in Somerset for anyone interested in making video games. The dates are from the 13th to the 15th of May, so you've not got long. Thanks again to our sponsor, Astropad Studio, the ultimate iPad app for professional artists. If you're ready to take your creative workflow to the next level, you can start your free 30-day trial of Astropad Studio right now. Plus save 10% on your first year when you enter the promo code BOOM at checkout. Just go to astropad.com. Next time, I'll be speaking with graphic designer Sarah Hinman, author of the best-selling book Why Fonts Matter and the founder of Type Tasting.